Fall Guys Season 1 is almost over, just ended, or has been over for a while now. Who knows how quickly I'll be able to edit this video. And to commemorate the conclusion of the first Battle Royale game that's ever gone in my interest, I'm going to rank all the rounds in Fall Guys from worst to best, and don't worry, Slime Climb is number 1. I've spent countless hours on Fall Guys. I managed to reach level 40 having only won 5 episodes, so I'm definitely qualified to rank the games, even if I'm clearly not good at any of them. Remember, this is my personal opinion, so if you disagree with my ranking, I hate you. But seriously, we're all different Fall Guys with different Fall Guys preferences. Some people even think that Hunter skin looks good, and that's okay. Now let's get ranking. Number 25, Hoarders. Yeah, this is gonna be one of those lists where the teen games don't rank very high. Hoarders feels like it just happens regardless of my input. The scores can shift drastically in an instant, and it's hard to feel like I ever really contribute all that much to which team actually qualifies. This is true of several of the team games admittedly, but the distinction here is that Hoarders isn't fun on top of that. The ball physics are a bit wonky, and while the map is fair, it's not really interesting. Number 24, Egg Scramble. A lot of why I don't like Hoarders holds true for Egg Scramble, but to a lesser extent. Admittedly, it probably falls victim to just one team getting bullied to defeat more than Hoarders, but that's because more precise gameplay is possible on Egg Scramble. I do feel my input has more value in Egg Scramble, I do think the map is a bit more interesting, and grabbing eggs isn't as wonky as the ball physics. But this is just praise in comparison to Hoarders. It's more fun and involved in that round, but I still groan every time it comes up. You're constantly getting grabbed by everyone around you. It still feels up to luck whether or not your team's going to qualify, and trying to jump out while thieving is a nightmare. Number 23, Perfect Match. I like the idea of Perfect Match. It's the only logic-style minigame in the collection, and that's a neat concept, but it's long, boring, and you can easily just follow the pack to get by. I hardly ever bother memorizing more than where 2 fruits are because it's just not that necessary. The logic minigame is actually one of the most brain-dead ones in the collection. Almost nobody gets eliminated by it, and the game pops up way too frequently for me. I guess it's nice to have an easy bye to the next round for fun and fame and kudos, but I seriously almost put this below Egg Scramble for how dull it is. Number 22, Royal Fumble. I'm not down on Royal Fumble the way many in the community seem to be for 2 reasons. 1, I won my first episode thanks to Royal Fumble, and 2, I've only gotten it 2 or 3 times in all my playtime. It appears so infrequently that I don't really have any strong feelings against it. But even so, I can certainly recognize that it's the worst final round. The playtime is too long, and since you only need the tail at the end, a lot of that extra time is meaningless. The map is also the weakest of the tail games. Number 21, Tail Tag. From one tail tag game to the next, having more qualifying spots and a better map where I can jump dive around the middle platforms makes this a more fun time than Royal Fumble. Number 20, Rock and Roll. The biggest problem with Rock and Roll is that several people still treat the ball as if it was a soccer ball, despite the two having different properties. Simply jumping towards it isn't helpful, and despite the balls having different designs to illustrate this, I can't blame them since with Hoarders and Fall Ball, the other rounds in this game do teach players to interact with balls in a specific way, so it's natural that they'd expect this to follow suit. It can still be annoying, but regardless of that, it's a fun idea for a team game. Do you break away and try and prevent the other team from scoring, or do you stay and push? You do need a certain amount of players on your team in order to successfully push it over the end drop, so there's a certain amount of strategy there. Number 19, Jinxed. Jinxed is a really fun concept, and the map has various places that are fun to bump around. Unlike a lot of team games, you can definitely feel important. Whether it be surviving for a while without getting jinxed, or jinxing a lot of guys, there's a tangible sense of value to your actions in the game. It's a little upsetting that Jinx constantly winds up with one person left on both teams. About 90% of my Jinx games end up in that close as nails fastens, which does dampen how much impact you feel you actually have, but regardless, it's one of the more fun team games. Number 18, Rollout. Rollout's low placement is a victim of the player pace getting too good at Rollout. It wouldn't be so bad if there was a timer like Block Party, or if the speed of the platforms continuously sped up to make it challenging, but instead it just lasts an eternity. It drags on and overstays its welcome more than any other game. On a base level, it is fun, but the more I play it, the more my opinion of it lowers. Number 17, Whoopsie Daisy. Hoopsie Daisy has the most fun name to say, and that's definitely worth something. The idea was really fun, and I like that there's a team game that features the platform element more prominently, since that's what drew me into Fall Guys, but there are a few annoyances. There are definitely times where it seems like I've got through the hoop first, but they gave the score to a different team, and I honestly never feel like I contribute enough here. I actually make it a point to count out how many points I score, and it always seems unusually low compared to the amount my team ends up scoring. I don't think I've ever scored more than 7 points. It always feels like if my team qualifies, it's despite me, which isn't a good feeling. Number 16, Seesaw. I don't like how long Seesaw takes. The idea of a survival race where you need to work in tandem with your opponents due to the physics of the obstacles is certainly an interesting idea, but it basically results in a lot of downtime and waiting. Occasionally you can spawn in an area that makes progress impossible, so sometimes it's just quicker to commit suicide and hope you spawn on the other side. Finishing in one of the top spots also means you have a lot of wait time until you can resume playing. One of Fall Guys' strength is the high ratio of playtime to waiting. And I feel like Seesaw is one of the only games that skews the ratio more towards waiting than playing. Number 15, Jump Club. Jump Club is a weird case where it's basically just a lesser version of another round. It's not a different take on the same concept in the way that the different tail tag games are, it's just a baby version of a final round, which admittedly wasn't the case when I first started playing it when Jump Showdown wasn't in the rotation, but now that it is, it can't help but influence my opinion on Jump Club. It's still a fun minigame, but it pales in comparison to Jump Showdown. Number 14, Team Tail Tag. The best tail tag game by quite a large margin. The map is definitely the biggest reason. It has several fun locations and feels the most tightly designed map of all the tail games. Of all the team games, really, you definitely feel important to the team's success, and it makes losing feel less frustrating to me. Because if I have a tail, and I almost always have a tail, I can hold my head high knowing I did my part, and you let me down. Whereas if I don't have a tail, and I'd have a tail, but if I didn't, I can't complain because I didn't do my part. The only thing I dislike is the friendly fire. I don't even understand why my own teammates would take my tail. You're not accomplishing anything by doing that. The score value remains the same. Even if you think your teammate isn't competent enough to hold on to a tail, then logically, shouldn't you think that said teammate isn't competent enough to grab a tail? But if you think you are better at holding on to a tail, shouldn't you also be better at grabbing a tail? So if that logic chain is right, you'd potentially be costing your team points. I just don't understand the logic of team tail snatching, and it's definitely a thing for some banana reason. Number 13, Fall Ball. I really like Fall Ball. It's fun to play both defense and offense, and I think the new randomization elements add a nice amount of spice to the game. It can definitely be frustrating, the randomization elements definitely add to that, but I don't dislike that element here. When it comes to the team games, I tend to value having value as an individual, and while you need a good team, you definitely play a role in how this game goes down. There can be some hype goals or some hype saves. Fall Ball is really engaging. Number 12, DoorDash. There are two ways to play DoorDash. You can either be brave or smart, and I definitely like to play brave. This doesn't often work out, and round 2 DoorDash is absolutely brutal. Whether it's because I picked wrong or because I lose to the mob cluttered in the door. Still, DoorDash is quick, being likely the most luck-based game in Season 1. It's not particularly annoying since I go in accepting that. And if it's round 1, elimination isn't very likely, so you can afford to be brave for a little bit. Its quick pace is definitely its biggest advantage. Number 11, Block Party. Block Party was ahead of the pack. Well, nowadays there's variables to many of the rounds. Block Party had that since day one, as the blocks that come up aren't always the same. Sometimes you'll get blocks that cave people in. This made Block Party one of my favorites early on, and unlike Rollout, its time limit means it won't go on too long, and the longer Block Party goes on, the more difficult it becomes, limiting the size of the arena you have to maneuver around the blocks. Don't mistake that for me saying that Block Party is difficult, because yeah, this modern love doesn't waste me. The only real threat for elimination here is getting knocked out by the other Fall Guys if you decide to stay back like a crazy person. But if you can stay up front, you're probably not going to get eliminated, which does keep it out of the top 10 since I feel like too many people survive it. Number 10, Hit Parade! It's not just one of the best Bardio songs, it's also one of the best Fall Guy rounds. Hit Parade lands here more for its type than its layout, honestly. Because of the platform stages, it's definitely the weakest, but those are my favorite style in the game. This is a fun stage. Getting knocked off by those balls at the end are a guaranteed elimination, but if you manage to get hit by them, you frankly deserve to be eliminated. I like how the level starts off with those balance beams. Having a tougher but quicker top route adds a nice layer of skill to it, like the classic Sonic style. I don't really like the next sequence, unless you get the variant where you're jumping over the spinning things. It feels a bit slow and predetermined due to the path the community has just decided to take, but it ends fun enough with that slime climb. Number 9. Dizzy Heights. We are getting into the top tier now because Dizzy Heights has no segment I don't find fun, and has an even better segment where there's a top but more difficult route and a bottom slow route as a penalty. Admittedly, I think the beams in Hit Parade are actually more difficult to navigate through, but Dizzy Heights' bottom route actually provides a different type of platform and challenge, whereas Hit Parade doesn't. So even if you fall off on Dizzy Heights, you still have something fun to do on the bottom level. I guess the bottomless pit jump is a bit cheap the first time you play it, but considering how frequently you'll play rounds, especially ones that can be round 1, it isn't something I can hold as a knock against the stage. Some of the variants can be pretty fun too. I love having the food suit out instead of the yellow balls, for example. Number 8. Gate Crash. Fun idea executed really well, with traversing the gates getting progressively more difficult the further along you travel. Ending with perhaps the most fun finish and set piece of all the race courses, the slime jump, and the fact that the gates patterns are no longer the exact same on every playthrough makes it a lot more interesting to get in the rotation. Number 7. Fruit Suit. Fruit Suit can be kind of annoying at the start, trying to land on that treadmill all nice and snugly, but beyond that, I think it's a really fun challenge. Choosing which side to go for, since being a Matthew Middle is a stupid idea, and trying to navigate through the fruits dropping is a nice test of skill, since the fruits all have different properties and by its nature, it feels different each time. Number 6. Fall Mountain. I have a soft spot for Fall Mountain because out of my 5 wins, 3 of them were from Fall Mountain. Even if one of those wins was during a game of Fall Mountain that only had 3 participants, Slime Climb took a lot of lives that day. Fall Mountain is just a simple trek upwards that incorporates elements of Fruit Suit's navigation, but giving you a wider playing field with more things to consider with those spinny things. It does kind of stink how much of a disadvantage you're at if you start in the back row, especially if the back row is the 3rd row, but generally, Fall Mountain is a fun final round. Number 5. Tiptoe. DoorDash doesn't hold a candle to Tiptoe when it comes to distinguishing smart players from brave players. Well, I say that, but Tiptoe isn't as luck-based as DoorDash. There is enough detail in the tiles that you can reasonably figure out the correct path, at least near the end. I've never played a game of Tiptoe where the correct path didn't have the last 2 tiles as part of the victory lane, so once you get towards the end, you can eliminate pathways by noticing the second tiles. It's honestly the game I've scored the most first place victories in, and while being brave can honestly cost you the race, that just adds a nice risk-reward element to the round. And again, since it isn't just luck-based, it feels a little more fair when you lose. Taking shortcuts and returning to the front of the line is also quite fun. Really love Tiptoe. Number 4. Jump Showdown. The only final round I have yet to win, though I have been the last eliminated from it, Jump Showdown is still a lot of fun. It does take a while to get going, it has a slow beginning, and independent on the skill level, the game can last quite a while. But unlike Rollout, that's not a problem because Jump Showdown feels rewarding to survive longer because it's an engaging challenge. And now that the camera no longer has a mind of its own, which has killed me in the past, I can finally say that I have 0 issues with Jump Showdown. Number 3. The Whirly Gig. The Whirly Gig is just loads of fun. It's like a series of mini Jump Showdown platforms. Even failing at the middle path is loads of fun, and Whirly Gig is one of the few stages where you're allowed to fail and still get through. If you finish early, it does have the long waiting time problems Seesaw has, but it's both a more fun track to play and a more fun track to watch others play. Not to mention, I feel it's still quicker than Seesaw to finish. Number 2. Hex-a-Gone. The best final round. I've only won this round once, but even though I lose at it all the time, I still find it very fun. One of the main reasons I lose is because I don't find the smart jumping strategy to be very fun, so I don't often bother to do it. But creating havoc throughout the level is very fun regardless. And during the team games, I've harped on how much you contribute to the game as an important factor whilst determining the order. And in Hex-a-Gone, you have the most pronounced effect on the other players, which is something I adore. 4. Number 1, Slime Climb. Duh, weren't you listening? I've mentioned difficulty several times here, but let's be real, Fall Guys is not that difficult of a game. Winning episodes can certainly be challenging, mind you. Again, I've only won 5, but most rounds are easy. The exception being Slime Climb, which offers genuine challenge. It's the only qualifying round that took me multiple attempts to qualify once from. The macaroni beam kept killing me. Now I can get across there just fine, and that makes me feel like I've grown as a player more tangibly than any other round in the game. Especially with all the new variables, it's not a guarantee that I'll qualify, and that's because of the challenge and not the luck factor, which is something I really appreciate. The people who stand on the beam to grief players are right up there with serial killers for me, but otherwise I have no problems with this game. And there you have it, that's every round from Fall Guys Season 1 ranked from worst to best. And remember, if you like this video, then you have a soul! Congratulations! Trust me, getting through life without one of those things is a bitch.